If you're a Turo host that has not enabled your book instantly feature, then your car is at risk of being unlisted in just a few weeks. Hey again, but in case you're new, I'm Yuly. I'm a computer engineer in the US, and on this channel, we explore how technology and optimization can make your businesses smarter and your lives easier. Today's focus is Turo's Book Instantly feature and its upcoming changes. In this video, we'll go into what the Book Instantly feature is, the upcoming changes and deadline, what will happen if we do nothing prior and thus miss the deadline, what needs to be done to not only meet the deadline, but also to protect our businesses. When you've rented a car in the past, say you've gone to the Enterprise or Hertz website, most of the time you were able to book your car, pay for it, and get your confirmation immediately. You never had to wait for the company to get back to you to tell you if the car and the dates that you chose work for them. Well, that's exactly what the Turo Book Instantly feature is. It allows guests to book their car without having to wait for you, the host, to approve it. Currently, as a host, you are able to decide whether to turn that feature on, allowing your guests to book your car automatically, or turn it off, allowing you the ability to approve or deny every request. However, that option will be ending very soon. Turo has decided that as of March 26, 2024, all listings must have Book Instantly turned on. Turo is integrated with online travel agencies like Kayak and Hopper. However, only cars with Book Instantly turned on are allowed to show up on these sites. So after this change, there will be a larger number of cars that show up on these sites, meaning possibly more bookings for Turo hosts. Also, the transition to 100% Book Instantly will help make Turo more comparable to other types of online booking experiences that run on a Book Instantly model, which is what guests are used to. And so overall, it should help streamline the booking process, offer a better guest experience, bring in more guests, and thus more bookings. However, I know this may cause an inconvenience for some hosts. As a matter of fact, I did some research and it looks like a little bit over 50% of hosts are using the Book Instantly feature. So I imagine there's a lot of hosts out there that either don't know what it is or have not turned it on for important reasons. You may be one of those hosts that this causes a huge inconvenience for. And if so, just make sure to watch until the end because I go into detail as to the changes that you should be making to help alleviate some of that. This means that after that date, you as a host will no longer have the ability to approve or deny requests, as they will all be automatically approved, and you will be responsible for honoring those bookings. Which means that if a booking creates a conflict for you, since it's already been accepted, you will be forced to cancel the trip, which can have some negative financial and business consequences. Let's take a closer look at some of the potential cancellation consequences. Financially, you will be charged a fee of $25 if you cancel more than 24 hours before the trip start, and $50 if you cancel less than 24 hours before the trip start. Now, on the business side of things, because canceling a trip can really disrupt a guest's plans, just think about it. If you were going on vacation and you had spent tons of time planning your time off, booking the flights, booking the hotels, the car, and then your car gets canceled, even after it's already been confirmed, now imagine how much worse it is if it's getting canceled with only a few days, let alone a few hours before the trip. It would be extremely frustrating, and it would probably push you away from ever using Turo again. So because of that, Turo takes certain measures to reduce the number of cancellations. Whenever you cancel a trip, an automated review will be posted on your listing, mentioning the cancellation and how far in advance it was done. I'm sure you've seen some of those. This will impact your host metrics and potentially even your car's placement in search results. If you cancel often, you risk having to remove your car from search altogether. If frequent cancellations cause your commitment rate to drop below 90%, Turo will issue you a warning. If you continue to cancel after that, they may remove you from the platform completely. And it makes sense, right? Since every cancellation can potentially be a lost customer forever. A customer that because of this experience may never return to the platform. Now, there's a few caveats. If you're an all-star host at the time of the cancellation, they may waive the cancellation fee. You'll still receive the automated cancellation review, but you can respond to it and explain why the cancellation was necessary. However, it will still impact your metrics and will most likely eventually lead to you losing the all-star status. So we should just try to avoid them as much as possible. And certainly don't try to just not show up. since that's especially worse, not only for the guests, but also for you, since then you can be charged up to a $150 fee for being a no-show. There's a few more details about how to go about cancellations, so just make sure to read the Turo policy on that, and I've put the link below. But one last note on that. Of course, if something about the guests, maybe in their messages, makes you feel uncomfortable or just seems off, just contact Turo right away and let them know that you'd like to cancel and why. It may be that they agree with you and so maybe ends up not affecting you. First, keep in mind, this change is only for bookings, not for any other requests. So requests to extend or shorten a trip, add, change, or remove a delivery, or add extras will still need to be approved. Also, this won't affect any existing bookings. So they're not going to cancel any trips already booked on cars that haven't yet enabled instant booking. So if you don't enable book instantly before the March 26, 2024 deadline, Turo has indicated that they may do any of the following. Unlist your vehicle altogether if you have not enabled instant booking at the home location. They will also turn off delivery locations for any locations that you have not enabled instant booking for. And they will also alter some of your settings. That is, in some cases, increase advance notice, trip duration, and trip buffer settings for vehicles at locations where instant booking hasn't been enabled. And this is to help ensure that you can fulfill those bookings and avoid cancellations when you relist your vehicle and start turning these delivery locations back on. So what should you be doing about these upcoming changes? If you've already had Book Instantly enabled for all of your cars and all of your locations, then there's nothing for you to do and there will be no change for you. But if you are one of those hosts that has not enabled it, it's most likely because you've needed the flexibility of deciding when and where your cars can be booked, most likely due to work or other responsibilities. However, you can still maintain that flexibility for the most part by updating a number of settings to meet your needs. So whether you fall into that category that I just mentioned or not, every host should be reviewing and updating these settings, especially prior to the Book Instantly deadline and before enabling Book Instantly. So these settings are pickup and return hours, location and delivery, advance notice, trip buffer, trip durations, and the calendar. So let's go ahead and take a look. We'll go through, explain what these are, and then I'll show you where and how to modify these. We'll also look at some examples. So for the pickup and return hours, you'll find these under Vehicles, Host Settings, Pickup and Return Hours. In the bottom section, you'll see the Location Hours section, and you'll see the 3 tabs that are Home, Delivery, and Custom. This is where you're going to tell the system during which days and times your cars can be picked up and dropped off on an ongoing basis. These settings will apply to all cars, but you're able to customize them based on the delivery type. And so they'll apply to any cars that have that delivery type enabled. You can see that mine are set to always available, which is this toggle at the bottom. You may have already modified yours, or maybe you left it at the default setting when you first list your car, which is 7 to 10 p.m. for weekdays and 7 to 7 for weekends for all locations. Then above that, in the block availability section, this is where you can set specific dates and times of unavailability that will override your typical schedule that you've set here at the bottom. So let's go through a few examples. So let's say you work Monday through Friday and you leave the house by 9:45 and return by 6:15, which means that you'd like to be able to hand over your car up until 9:30 and then again after 6:30 p.m. and then at any time on the weekends. This means that the availability periods will be for weekdays midnight to 9:30 a.m. and then 6:30 p.m. to 11:59 p.m. And then for weekends, it would be midnight to 11:59 p.m. So to set this up, we click into the home, then we click on Monday, then we click on add hours. And then in the apply these hours to additional days, we want to select all the weekdays since we want these hours to apply to Monday through Friday. Then in the hours section, we set the start time to midnight and the end time to 9:30 a.m. Then we click on add hours. Then we set the start time to 6:30 p.m. and the end time to 11:30 p.m. You can see there is no 11:59 p.m. The latest is 11:30. So we set it to 11:30. And then we click on save. So now we can see that the available hours we chose for Monday through Friday are shown for each of those days. By the way, if you're wondering why we didn't just set the availability in one shot from 6:30 p.m. until 9:30 a.m. the next day is because, as you can see, the system is not set up to handle it that way, so it won't let you do it. And so we had to split up the availability in two parts. The first part before the morning and the second part in the afternoon. Now we do the same for Saturday and Sunday, except we'd make those always available. And you can see that the system changed the times from midnight to 11:59 p.m. and we'd save. Then you can see down here, you have this additional Turo Go hours checkbox, and it says my Turo Go vehicles can be picked up and returned anytime to my home location. And so this is just an additional setting that overrides the above in case you want the above to apply to all the cars that don't have Turo Go, but you still want to leave the Turo Go's open to be able to be picked up at any time. Since for the Turo Go vehicles, you don't need to be there. So you do have that additional option you can set if you'd like. If, for example, you have a job where you won't be available during those times at all, then maybe even if it's a Turo Go car, you won't want to turn that on, since sometimes there may be issues with, a lot of times the app doesn't work and the guest has issues unlocking and locking the car, and so they end up sending me a message and I end up having to, respond to their messages and unlock the car for them remotely. And so just keep in mind, yes, it's a Turo Go vehicle, but if you're not available during a specific time, then you may just not be able to set that availability, even for Turo Go cars. So just keep that in mind. So now we move on to the next tab, which is for delivery locations we've set. In most cases, this is airports, but it can be hotels, train stations, etc. In our example, let's say the airport is 15 minutes away. So just to be safe, you want an additional hour. So you want to make it available up until now 8:30 a.m. instead of 9:30 if you have to take it to the airport. And then after 7:30 p.m. instead of 6:30 p.m., you're giving yourself an extra hour. So you would do the exact same thing, except you change the start and end times for Monday through Friday to the 8:30 to 7:30. And then for the last tab, this is if you allow guests to choose custom delivery. You would handle it the exact same way, except just make sure to account for the distance you've allowed in the custom delivery setting. And I'll show you what that is. So if you go to vehicles and then edit listing, or by clicking on the car photo, location and delivery, you go to custom location, edit, you can see the distance from home location that you've allowed. So this is what I'm talking about. So just make sure that you take into account how many miles you've allowed someone to set as a custom location. So for instance, if you've set that setting to allow any distance, or even say 40 miles from the home location, and someone books it for 8:30 a.m., now that hour that you gave yourself to drive to and from the airport and make it to work on time isn't going to be enough for you to drive 40 miles back and forth. So just keep that in mind when dealing with custom locations. To still allow custom delivery and have enough time to do it, I would say set it to a distance that you'd be able to do within the same amount of time that you've already set, say 10 miles. That way you don't lose out on custom deliveries that are like within 10 miles. Another example may be that you're just not available on weekends at all. And so in that case, you'd click on Sunday and then on the trash can and then on save. Then you do the same for Saturday. If your day was already set to always available, then you first have to turn that off and then make the edits. Now let's look at an example where you would use the block availability setting. Let's say you were going on vacation, and so there is going to be no one available to pick up or drop off the car, let's say between April 1st and the 5th, or maybe there's a chance you need to work overtime that week. In this case, you would click on block availability, then on block availability again, and then you'd enter the desired dates. In this case, we'd enter midnight on April 1st, although I'd always give myself half a day or a day extra just to give you that extra time so you're not returning from vacation and having to run to deliver and possibly miss a delivery time. So we're gonna choose March 31st at noon, and then the same thing for the end date. So let's say April 6th at noon, and then click on add. So now you can see it here. So now that that block is in place, the system is not going to let a guest book a trip that starts or ends during that time period. However, something to consider is that this isn't preventing a car from being on a rental during that period. It's only preventing them from being picked up or dropped off. So starting or ending during that period, which means that you'll still need to be available for any questions or issues that may come up. if a car is out during that period. So if, say, you were going on vacation to a place where maybe you'll have little to no signal, then instead of doing this block, you would block off the car altogether. And you would do that in the trip calendar. If you need to remove it, just click on it, then on delete, and then on delete again. So if you click on trips and then calendar, and then click on any dates, you can see that all cars have been selected. Then you click on unavailability and then on block availability. Then you'd select the days and times. So March 31st at noon until April 6th at noon. You can choose to enter a reason for this block, so you can say vacation, and this is optional. This is for you. This is in case you're looking back through your records in the future. You have something to remind you of the purpose of the block. And by the way, you can see that you can also do hourly blocks if need be instead of days. Okay, so then you click on update days. So you can now see that those dates are blocked off. And if you click into any of the days or any of the rows for any of the cars in any of the days, it will give you the full details, and it'll allow you to remove it either for the specific car or for all of them. So another example would be if a car will be unavailable due to maintenance. In that case, you would use the car's individual calendar under vehicles and then calendar. Or you can use this calendar, but instead of clicking on a day, you would click on the specific row for the car that you want to block, and then add the unavailability. By the way, if you're finding this video helpful, please take a quick second to just hit the like button. And if you're not yet subscribed and you'd like to see more content, please make sure to subscribe as well. Turn on your notifications, and of course, share any thoughts or suggestions in the comments. All right, so the next set of settings you want to make sure you've set up are the trip preferences. And you will find these under vehicles, and then edit listing, or by clicking on the car photo and then on trip preferences. So there you will see the different locations and the same settings for each. So the first setting is the book instantly checkbox, and it's the reason for this video. This is where we have been able to tell the system whether to allow our cars to be instantly booked or not. And this is the setting that if we want to keep listing our cars on Turo, will have to be checked starting on 3/26. The next setting is the advance notice. This is the minimum time that's required between when a guest books your car and when they pick it up. And the options are between 5 minutes for Turo Go cars, or 1 hour for non-Turo Go, and then up to 2 days. This setting will vary based on location, since you may want to set it for, say, an hour at the home location, then 4 hours for the custom and the delivery locations, to give yourself enough time to get the car ready, to deliver it, to deal with traffic, whatever your case is. So for example, if every time that you get a car back, you wash it, do everything that it needs, refuel it, and you park it right back at the home location, maybe you cover it, maybe you don't, and it has a lockbox, then I think maybe an hour would be reasonable, since it gives you enough time to wipe it down if it hasn't been covered, or uncover it if it has. If it doesn't have a lockbox and you need to be there, then you'd want to give yourself enough time to be able to be there, get there, or get someone else to be able to handle it for you. Basically, since now the car will be automatically booked, just try to pick a number that will eliminate any stress and potential issues. So maybe setting it to 4 hours across the board gives you that peace of mind that you're always going to be able to handle it either yourself or get someone to help you with it. Now, something else to consider along with this setting is the availability setting that you just set. And here's why. For example, if you set your availability from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. and then you set your advance notice to 4 hours, somebody could potentially book your car tonight at 2 in the morning for delivery at 7 in the morning, since they would have booked it with 5 hours of advance notice and the pickup time falls within the allowed time. The issue is that you're probably not seeing this until you wake up at, say, 6 or 7, which will most likely not give you enough time to deliver the car. This isn't common, but it has happened to me, and it was a very stressful situation. So you just want to make sure that you've thought through each of these scenarios and set it up in a way that will work for you. So you either modify your available hours, although I'd probably leave those alone since you want to leave as much availability as possible, and instead modify the advance notice, especially for delivery or custom locations, to say 12 hours or 1 day. Now the next setting is the trip buffer. This is the minimum amount of time that you need in between trips. And the options are 2 hours for Turo Go cars or 3 hours for non-Turo Go, and then up to 3 days. With this setting, you just want to calculate realistically how much time you will need to get the car ready between trips. So maybe at the home location, you can have it ready in 2 hours. And then for the delivery and custom locations, maybe 5 or 6, since you need to calculate in the time to maybe bring it back home to clean it or take it to a location to get it washed and then take it back to the airport. Now the next few settings are the trip duration settings. These settings aren't really that important with regard to the book instantly feature, but they're definitely very important. And you should make sure that you've thought through these carefully and set them up properly. The first two, the shortest trip and the longest trip, are where you set the minimum and maximum number of days that you will allow a guest to book your car. One thing I will mention about this is to make sure that you're calculating how much it costs you to turn around a car. So to get it, wash it, inspect it, fuel it up, whatever that is, which will vary from person to person since you may be doing it yourself or you may be paying someone else to do it. So just making sure you know what that number is and then setting your minimum days based on that. So for instance, if you pay someone $30 to wash and deliver a car, then it wouldn't make much sense to allow 1-day rentals for cars whose daily rates are, let's say, $35, because you're almost losing money after Turo's share, after your time, and possibly the gas delivering the car. Now, this may not be your situation at all, since you may be paying an employee a salary, for instance, in which case you may be able to get away with allowing 1-day rentals. So this is very specific to each host's situation. Either way, it's just something that you should think about and make sure you adjust properly. The next setting is the minimum weekend trip duration. And this is where if you have selected to allow 1-day trips, you then have the option to only allow those on weekdays and not on weekends. So if you check this box, then you're basically saying that all trips that start on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday must be at least 2 days. So maybe you pay your employees Monday through Friday, and any Saturday and Sunday trips, either you're paying them extra to come in and handle them or you're handling them yourself. In which case, doing all that for a 1-day trip is not worth it. May not even be worth it for a 2-day trip. So again, just something to think about, figure out, calculate the numbers, and set it accordingly. All right, so that's it for the settings. One thing I will add is to keep in mind while you're thinking of all these settings and options, that if you set up your car on Turo Go, and if that's not available, then on remote, and if that's not available, then at least with a lockbox, then depending on your locations, you may be able to widen your availability, since you can simply drop off and pick up the car's hours before and after their trips start and time and end times. So if, for example, you have to leave to work at 8 a.m. and the pickup time is 9 a.m., you can always drop off the car at 6 a.m. to be picked up. And same thing with the pickup, just something to think about. All right, so once you've decided on what your settings are going to be, then you'll update the pickup and return hours, and then you'll click into each vehicle and update the trip preferences. And once you've done that, then you'll go ahead and check the book instantly for all of the locations. Now, what if you missed the deadline? If you're watching this after the deadline has passed, then remember that Turo may have unlisted your car, removed certain locations, and modified some of your settings. If you're comfortable with bookings being automatically accepted regardless of your settings, meaning you're always available, then simply enable the book instantly for all locations and relist your vehicle by changing its status to listed. Otherwise, if you're not comfortable with the bookings being automatically booked and you need to set certain restrictions, then make sure you review and update all of the necessary settings that we just discussed, and then enable book instantly before relisting your car. So remember, if you already have book instantly enabled, then there's nothing for you to do, although you would still benefit from making sure that you have all of those settings set up properly. If you don't have book instantly enabled and you have been manually approving or denying bookings, then please make sure to get all of these things done before the March 26th deadline so that you don't risk getting your cars unlisted. All right, well, I hope this was valuable and clarified any questions or uncertainties you may have had about this upcoming change. As always, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. And again, if you haven't yet hit that like button, please just take a quick second to do so now, and also to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so. Thanks and take care.